You guys, I'm super happy to be here, largely because this is going to be on TV. I'm going to be on television, yeah. And I like that because it means my grandmother can watch it, and she'll be really proud. You know, she'll be like, that's my granddaughter. And that's my thing with my grandmother. We watch TV together, you know? We just kind of veg out, we chillax. I taught her that word. She thinks it means we took a laxative. I let her do that part by herself. She's like, oh, Jeopardy. No, it's fun, but sometimes she says weird things. Like the other day we were watching the news, and there was something on the news about a gay man, and my grandmother said, oh, I don't believe in homosexuals. I was like, Grandma, what do you mean? You mean like you disagree with their choice in lifestyle? She said, no, I don't believe in them. I was like, Grandma, they're not hobbits. Or Santa Claus. Like, some people call them fairies, but they're not actually fairies. Because seriously, she talked about them like they were something she'd heard about in a ghost story around the campfire when she was a kid. You know, like, and sometimes when the moon is full and the night is still, you can hear the moaning of the gays in the woods as they fornicate. I don't know what they sound like, actually, I don't know. Probably like me when I have sex, but gayer. You know, like la 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 la. La 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 la. Ouch. I think that would be awesome, though, if that was the worst thing we had to worry about when we went camping. You know, like some guy's in his tent. He hears some rustling. He's like, what the fuck, did you hear that? Go back to sleep, Gary. It's probably just a homo. And Gary wakes up, his ass is all sore. And his tent's been redecorated. He's like, what happened here? I like those drapes. So we're in Canada. I presume you're all Canadian. Maybe you're... Yeah! Enthusiastic ones. Yeah, I love Canada. There's a lot of great things about this country. Canada's a very politically correct country, which is good, you know, but I'll be honest, I kind of find it hard to be politically correct, and I think in my case it's mostly because I'm racist. I'm gonna have to watch what I say. No, I'm kidding, I'm not actually racist, and you know that because nobody ever says, hi, I'm a racist, you know? Except maybe Mel Gibson. Jerk. No, but people say stuff like, hi, I'm a lawyer. Hello, I'm a doctor. Nobody ever says, hello, I'm a racist. You know, they usually try to hide that, often behind a white sheet. But even though I'm not racist, I still find it hard to be politically correct. Not because I don't want to be, but because the lingo is always changing. You know, I never know what the right word is. And I try to stay on top. Like the other day, I was talking to my friend Kathy, and she used the term Jew. And I was like, Kathy, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Christianly challenged. You might want to watch that. She just kind of looked at me and walked away. I think she was pretty embarrassed. I didn't have the best time in elementary school. I was what they call a loser. And whatever, I'm not ashamed of that. You know, I grew out of it. And I know I'm not the only person that's been through something like that. You look like someone that's been through that a little bit. You know, I can tell from the tank top. It gives it away. No, I kid. But yeah, it was a hard time. I was also in French immersion because I was in Ottawa. I find in Toronto, when you ask somebody, like, do you speak French? They're always like, no. Why would I do that? You know, like you gave them a rectal exam while you asked them. They're like, no. But Ottawa's pretty bilingual. I took French immersion, and I was picked on, and not just by the other kids, but also some of the teachers, which is like a double whammy. And I remember I had this teacher in the first grade, and her name was Madame La Tulipe, which makes sense, right? Because la means the, and tulipe means bitch. But here's what happened. She kind of ruined my life. Serious. There were two Rebeccas in the class. There was Rebecca Zimmerman and me, Rebecca Kohler, which starts with a K. And apparently, this was way too confusing for Madame La Bitch. So she came up with the awesome idea that we would call her Rebecca Z, and I became Rebecca K. Yeah, it was great. It was great. I was 6 years old, and my name was Rebe Poo Poo. It was not the best. They'd be like, draw a picture of the classroom. They'd be like, David, Cindy, Sabrina, and then just like a turd. I'm moving up in the world. I recently got cable, and I even got the movie channels. Okay, I know, I don't want to brag. But the other day, I was a little surprised. I came home late. I turned on the TV, and there's porno. Big time porno. Okay, pervert. We had a bit of a cheer. That's great, that's great. And I was kind of like, you guys, I have watched like 13 pornos in the past 2 weeks, okay? And it's not because I'm doing this. And that's not how I do that, by the way. It's a different system. No, I've watched all of these pornos because I'm fascinated. Okay, yeah. It's like a science project or something. No, I'm fascinated because I am a woman. And I don't think these pornos are made for the ladies. Okay? And I think this for two reasons. First of all, unpleasant things will be happening to a woman in a porno, and she'll be making happy sounds. You know what I mean? She'll be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh harder, oh yeah. Meanwhile, I would be like, get me to a hospital. This is not okay. It's just kind of weird. I think it creates an unrealistic sense of reality, you know? Because a guy will be like, oh, I'm gonna try that on Betsy, you know, or whatever. And then he goes to Betsy, he's like, so, and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, why do you have pubic hair? But the second reason I think they don't make these for ladies are the faces on the men in the porno. Okay, because I think men and women are stimulated differently. I think men like to see a woman's body. You know, they're like, boobies, I want to have sex, boobies! Or something like that. But I mean, I've never seen a guy's ass and thought like, I want to tap that. And that's not how I talk in my head, by the way. I'm not like, I like Starbucks, but it's too expensive. I have to pee, where's the bathroom? I just sound like me. But yeah, like, I think we like to see a guy's face and think like, he looks nice. He looks like he has thoughts. Maybe we could go for coffee sometime. Maybe at Starbucks. But they put these guys in the porno, and granted, they have huge penises. Those things are amazing, you know? They're like machetes. You know, they're... If you ever need to get through the jungle, just follow the porn star. I see the predator. I'm crazy. And somebody said to me, well, that's the part that's for you. That's the part that's for the woman. And I'm like, again, I'm not stimulated that way. Like, yeah, if I have a boyfriend and he has a big one, you know, that's a bonus. But I don't need to see a penis that looks like it could put a hole through my back. That doesn't do anything for me. You know, like, we had sex. It was amazing. I am a paraplegic now. Was worth it. Anyway, so I'm watching this porno the other day, one of my cable porns. And by the way, I can't even get aroused, but, because I'm so traumatized. But the guy's having sex with a girl, you know, the in and out, and they pan up to his face and he's just like, like it looks like he works at a gas station in Hamilton. He's like, I'll just do a little porn for you right now. Woo! Let's talk about testicles for a quick sec. I'm a woman, and I sometimes have relations with men in a naked way, and they have testicles, also known as balls, and I don't know what to do with them. You know, I don't have any. I can't practice. I mean, the only thing I know really about testicles is that I used to kick my brother in them and he would fall to the ground and cry. So I'm kind of like, oh, shit, I don't know what, too hard. I just end up like David Bowie in Labyrinth. Is that good for you? Sometimes I think about aging. Not so much about what I'll look like, but like who I will become. You know, like the other day I got all worried that I'll turn into one of those 60-year-old women who keep Kleenex in their sleeve. You know what I'm talking? My mom will be like, I'll just put that there for later. But then I relaxed myself. I was like, Rebecca, by the time you're 60, they probably will have invented something like a pocket or a garbage can. I can use those. But I remember when I was a kid, one day I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not a man, because men have to go bald. And I was like, I'll get wrinkles and I'll get droopy, but at least I don't have to lose my hair. You know, that's not my problem. But as I get older, most of the guys who ask me out are bald or balding. Starting to think, maybe this is my problem. You know, I don't have to lose it, but I have to watch it fall out. It's like a really slow, depressing movie. Takes like 30 years to watch. The ending's really shiny. I'm not against bald people. My brother's bald, and I love him. I love him. He's got the island going on. You know what I'm talking about? There's like a landmass back here, and then like Cuba. Front. Sometimes when he's sleeping, I glue a little palm tree to that area. A little boat, buy some cigars. He loves that. But seriously, I'm not a baldist. I've gone out with a lot of bald guys, because bald guys can be freaking hot. You know what I'm talking about? There are a lot of people with hair that are really ugly. Anyway, yeah, the only awkward thing is going out with a man who's in denial about the fact that he's bald or balding. You know, I'm like, just embrace it, guys. Because I'm a good girlfriend, and if my boyfriend's in denial about something, I want to go along with that denial. You know, I want to get on the pretend train to I have hair or a big penis or wherever it is that we're gonna go. That's fine. So I'll find myself saying things like, "No, what are you talking about? No, I'm balding. What does that mean? No, you're just stressed. I don't even know what. No, you." Meanwhile, his head is like a dandelion in the fall. You know, it's like. And the last guy I went out with, whenever the topic of balding would come up, he'd always get really defensive, you know, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm not bald, no. No, I've just always had a really big forehead." I'd be like, "Right. Has your forehead always been the size of your head, Mr. Clean? You're bald." I actually went into a sex store recently. It was nothing weird. I was just buying some giant anal beads. No. I'm lying. I was not. That's not really my thing, the anal beads. A friend of mine is always trying to convince me. You know, she's like, "Beck, no, they're amazing. Okay, you shove them up the poo hole, okay? And then when it feels really good, you pull them out." It's like, what am I, a lamp? Why don't you try turning me on the old-fashioned way with a gerbil? No, but I love going into sex stores because it's one of the last places on earth where I still feel like a kid. Because I have no idea what's going on around me. You know, I'm like, what? How do you... But do you put that... Am I in the movie Saw? Anyway, so I was in there the other day. It's none of your business. I was with a friend. And I saw this thing, and it was crazy. It was like this big, okay? It was kind of like, it was an apparatus, all right? And you would sit on this, okay? Do you understand? It had a big wang, okay? And basically, it would simulate having sex, okay? And it was on sale for $950. And I was like, whoa, like that's gotta be a dark day in a single woman's life. You know, she comes in, she's like, $950. Here's my visa, give me the horse. She talks like this, that's why she has to buy the horse. I just think it's sad because she's kind of resigning herself to the fact that no one's ever gonna come back to her apartment. Because if they do, they're gonna see that. You know, unless it disassembles like one of those exercise machines you see on TV. You know, like give it a quick screw and then slide it under the bed. But it doesn't do that, I asked. You know, they're gonna come in, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a great place. I love what you've done with the lighting. Those are great. It's pink tones, I like that." What the fuck is that? Because if you have like a vibrator, you can just hide that in a drawer. You know, if somebody finds it, you're just like, "Oh, that's my sock holder." I don't like it when they get wrinkled, so I iron them and I put them on the holder. I have 32 sock holders. This thing, how are you gonna explain paint it pink? You're like, "Oh, my grandfather built that for me. It's a rocking horse. The saddle's weird." I know. That's strange. Also, touchy subject, but I'm gonna go there. Incest. All right, let's do this! No, I don't want to think about it, but sometimes I do, because I just don't understand it, and so I have questions, you know? Because I have a brother, and I think the worst thing that could ever happen to me would be to make out with my brother. You know, he's bald, I told you. But also, he's my brother, you know? But people do this in certain areas of the world, and I just have questions. Like, normal people, when we make out, we say things to each other. You know, like, I like you, you're really cute. What do they say? Like, Sally, I really like your eyes. They're just like mine. Crossed. And then the question is what they say when they're really going at it, you know? What then? They're like, oh, that feels good. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah. Oh, who's our daddy? Who's our daddy? She's like, you know him. We're in his minivan.